Thank you, Nirmalo, for sharing about the work. Also appreciate the introduction to Shaurudda and thank you, Shaurudda, for sharing about the different community-led restoration projects and reforestation projects that your team is leading in this region. I have some questions, and I would love to have just a conversation and understand a little bit more on how these projects are going and what are the long-term vision and the plans.
The women who are working here, they are mostly housewives. Okay, and they work from 9 till about 4:30 in the afternoon, and then so once this thing has been taken care, and then the plantation is taken, then we kind of take it, with our own vehicle or with the vehicle of the of the nursery guys to the field and where the plantation has been taken care of. So there are kind of a lot of pre-project work which needs to be done. The pit digging, the pit kind of needs to be kind of matured and stuff like that. So I think the whole idea is how you can be able to kind of also create some sort of a livelihood in the nursery making. So that's one of the objective which we're trying to kind of see.
These are relatively poorer parts of the of this region because they are very near to the forest. There is not much scope for income generation. There's a lot of crop depredation by animals, so even agriculture is not very profitable in these landscapes. So what we also want to do with the disruption that COVID caused, we also thought out that maybe there's enough scope for these people to, because they're disconnected from the markets, from the urban centers, the marketplaces, because they have available land in their near about their homesteads. So we encourage that they do vegetable planting, adopting more sustainable farming practices, doing more diversified set of crops rather than just sticking to the paddy and jute, which is the mainstay of these areas. But because of the remoteness of these areas, the diversification and the connect with the marketplaces is not very good. So we thought that maybe a good idea would be to take them off, and also flight of labor is an additional concern. People are moving out, young generation is moving out. So agriculture since it's a very labor intensive thing, it takes a lot of effort, and with no manpower that will also falling into disrepair. So we thought maybe we can come up with a carbon project here with tree plantation, carbon credits being a source of money to the community, a source of activity and livelihood to the community, as well as sort of unite the community behind this idea of carbon markets and the financing opportunities it offers. That was the whole idea, and now we have managed to do some plantations in this particular village.
January, February, March, April, May. So 5 months is basically the timeline by which we need to kind of achieve this another 600,000
saplings
of 11 varieties.
Of 11 native varieties, and then it is going into 2,000 hectares. Is that correct?
500 hectares.
500 hectares for this year.
Can you describe a little bit more about the pilots?
Across the district here, across this district and the immediately southern district of Kuch Bihar, this is Alipurduar district, we have chosen some 50 odd beneficiaries for doing this plantation, carbon plantation, tree plantation with the aim of carbon sequestration across about 35 hectares. So the whole idea of doing the pilot was understanding the logistics, the costs involved, what works, what doesn't work, what type of fencing will work, what type of fencing will not work, what type of what are the social dynamics of doing a plantation which takes the land off the table for other uses for 20 years.
3 বিঘা জমি করছি, দিদিকে বললাম আমার 3 বিঘা জমিতে আমার ইচ্ছা আছে এটা প্ল্যান্টেশন করার জন্য। হ্যাঁ, আগে উনি আসছিলেন, এই যে মাশরুম চাষ করাইলেন আমাদেরকে, হ্যাঁ, তখন থেকে আমাদের পরিচয়। উনি বলছেন হ্যাঁ করা যাবে, এটা আপনি ইচ্ছুক হইলে করা যাবে।
তা আপনার এমনি এখানে অল টোটাল জমি কত আছে এখানে?
আমার 9.5 বিঘা আছে। আমার লেমন গার্ডেন করছি।
আচ্ছা,
1.5 বিঘা।
আচ্ছা,
আর তো ওইদিকে ধানও লাগাই,
আচ্ছা।
ধান চাষ করি, পাট চাষ করি।
In those areas, when you say you have done the pilot, means you have already talked to the communities around that. and
Those
they're
all those
willing-
focus group discussions, participatory appraisal of the lands and the livelihoods and the pros cons of doing forestry versus agriculture. Those discussions have had in much of these villages that constitute these 2,500 hectares apiece in each of these districts.
Awesome. So is there a way, are you also thinking, I know you are a soil scientist, so are you also thinking of establishing some sort of monitoring mechanism of soil carbon, how things are changing since the plantation starts over a period of time to show, because above ground carbon we
Yes.
can measure
Yes,
through satellite,
soil-
remote sensing. and
Soil,
all.
for the most part, has not been. We do soil tests and have a baseline idea of the soil texture, the soil organic matter, the soil pH. So, I mean, if you look at a soil database, all of these will be called fluvisols or riverine soils.
Fluvial soil.
But the local variations are quite high.
How
we can,
deforestation
we can,
is
yeah.
increasing above ground carbon and soil carbon. We have to just establish those allometric equations across these
Yeah.
different
So we have to
stratified soil
sort
samples.
of, yeah,
and
we can
set
do
up-
the stratification and how much of the below ground biomass is essentially going into the soil carbon, how much of the above ground is getting incorporated into the soil. So we can do that, but I feel that ground truthing and validation will have to be quite intense.
Very interested because when I did my PhD and I looked, what I was looking at is the deforestation and land degradation. So I was looking at the deforestation rate within and forest degradation within protected areas and outside protected areas. So it was a large landscape level study comparing across different protected areas, Jalapara, Baksa, Tiger Reserve, Mahananda, and also surrounding villages and areas.
Yeah.
So, and I was doing that with satellite data before Google Earth Engine came into existence. These forests were getting converted to tea gardens. And then tea gardens were, if they were not upkept, at that time the tea price was very high. So it was a driver for converting forest land into tea gardens. The increase of tea estates degradation has peaked. So all the forests which were getting converted to deforest to tea estate, that loss has already happened. Now even the tea estates are not getting maintained, and they are at the place of getting converted either to urban or to something else, and it's fallowed land.
And fallows currently constitute about 30 to 40% of tea garden acreage. And the tea gardens own this land, but it's fallows. It's not under tea. So we are interested in taking it back using carbon finance to take back the forest using carbon finance. Carbon into this equation is going to going to be a disruptor of sorts, and it will probably open up a lot of opportunities.
If the communities are
Exactly.
interested, there is an opportunity to diversify their economic pathways.
Exactly.
And unless the communities are willing to participate, and if we can empower them through these mechanisms like enabling them to have nurseries to support the plantations
Yes,
over
yes.
here. You talked about the nutri gardens,
Yes,
like we spoke to
crop
the field style,
diversification.
crop diversification. If we can bring that, and on top of that, if we can bring alternate livelihood mechanism
Absolutely.
through alternates from fuel wood. Total কজন কাজ করে এই যারা নার্সারিতে কাজ করছে?
Finance mechanism to stop carbon, improve livelihoods, improve the resilience of these communities, both from an economic standpoint and from a climate standpoint. The agricultural livelihood sector also more resilient, and it will also lead to less flight of people, because now they will no longer have the make it or break it situation that agriculture currently is in. We have education related projects for a long time in western parts of West Bengal province, within the district of Birbhum. But more than that, we have also got our other collaborators who are working in Purulia district. Similarly, we are looking at alternative agriculture, management and cropping methods in Birbhum district.
What was the overall projected climate mitigation numbers?
1,000 hectares is about 0.9 million
Metric tons.
year in emission reduction.
Okay.
0.9 million over 20 years.
And I'm seeing some birds flying in the horizon, and I'm thinking of biodiversity credits as they go through this ecosystem and livelihood.
Because once we clear these deforested patches, I'm sure it will become habitat for birds, small mammals,
Insects.
insects.
কেমন আছেন? নমস্কার নমস্কার